small section from chapter 12 when I was in England in September last year. I caught a train up to Darlington, arriving mid-afternoon, and was just getting settled on the sofa with my family and watching Bullseye with my dad, his favourite retro game show from the 1980s, with patronising old-school comedian Jim Bowen at the helm, who often referred to female contestants as good girl, like they were obedient Labradors, when a text came in from someone in the family that the Queen had died. I'll always remember where I was when I got the news, sitting on a sofa watching Bullseye. I spared the old dear a few thoughts, having had her as a figurehead since before I was born, but ultimately I dislike the monarchy and see no place for it in the modern world. It might have had its uses once upon a time when dispossessed serfs needed a protective figure to rally around, but politics, progress and bloody revolution had shown it up for the corrupt, absurd anachronism that it is. Britain would do just as well from tourism without them as it did with them. I have never wished them ill, but often fantasized about giving them a hard dose of reality by being handed a suitcase of personal belongings, a travel card, some meal tickets, and being pointed to the low door in the wall that led out onto a normal city street and being told, "Get a life." But this sudden news, a bit like arrival of COVID-19, was to have a knock-on effect on pretty much everything in normal life for the next 2 weeks that I was in England. Talk about bad timing. I previously organised for Saturday the 17th of September that I'd be in Grantham in Lincolnshire, where I would attend the anti-Thatcher statue march, which would highlight the cost of living crisis, as well as the fierce hikes in energy bills that Britons had been told to expect from the autumn onwards. The Margaret Thatcher statue had been a sore point since its first erection in May 2022, and within hours had been egged, and within days vandalised, and been the subject of much random anti-Thatcher and anti-Tory attention ever since. To be part of such a high-profile event was a buzz. I prepared one of my poems for public performance at the rally, and one by Attila the stockbroker. I'd also written a new one called Power to the People. Attila's was about the miners' strike of 1984, called Never Forget. I was really looking forward to it, as it was a good cause and good exposure and experience for me and my work. But then the rogue union shop steward organising the event decided to cancel because of the death of the Queen, which was seen as quite pathetic to most of us activists who had agreed to give our time. Over the course of the following days, many more events organised for that month across the country were cancelled or suspended, while the media and the establishment rammed her death down the throats of the public, whether they cared or not. She had, I quote, devoted her life to our service, whatever that meant, apparently. I can't see how she devoted very much to me with her racehorses, servants, castles and country estates. Everything from jumble sales to football matches were cancelled, as were all strikes, as the railway unions and postal workers had planned more stoppages during September. Shops would close as a mark of respect. They also claimed that she was a mother and grandmother, and so on, like she was some charming old widow who lived in a little cottage at the end of a cobbled street, had a rose garden and made cookies. I don't know anybody else who had the military power and influence she and her cronies had. They were, and still are for me, the one thing holding Britain back from being a modern republic, like France. I had loathed her when she had been alive and fought them tooth and nail with my poetry, art and attitude. And now that she was dead, I loathed her successors too. Now they wanted to brainwash me further and make me conform to an enforced mourning period, along with all her other so-called subjects. Everybody says, "Oh, isn't Billy Connolly so funny?" And so he may be, but like all the others, he still queues up for his knighthood and bent his knee to kiss their blue arses. Whether you were a staunch royalist or a vehement anti-royalist, you had no choice. Monday, 19th of September 2022, the day of the funeral, all submitted.